Haunting Aisle, True Creepy Walmart Encounter. As a kid, I always found the local Walmart to be an intriguing place. The towering shelves stacked with goods, the fluorescent lights casting an eerie glow, and the constant bustle of shoppers made it a world of its own. Little did I know that one fateful night, my curiosity would lead me to an experience that would forever change the way I saw the store. It was a chilly autumn evening when my friends and I decided to venture into the abandoned tales that surrounded our Walmart. The sun had already dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the parking lot. We chuckled nervously as we recalled stories of bizarre occurrences within the store's dimly lit aisles. Some said they had seen items move on their own, while others claimed to hear faint whispers echoing through the quiet hours of the night. Armed with nothing but flashlights and fueled by teenage bravado, we entered the store. The air inside was heavy with a strange mix of mustiness and the scent of old plastic. The silence was deafening, only broken by the occasional creak of our footsteps on the linoleum floor. We began to explore the store, sticking together as we navigated through the maze-like aisles. Our laughter slowly faded as the reality of the situation sunk in. We were alone in an abandoned Walmart at night. The overhead lights flickered sporadically, casting eerie shadows that seemed to dance along the shelves. My heart raced with a mix of excitement and unease. As we turned a corner, our flashlights illuminated a peculiar sight. The toy aisle lay before us, and on the shelves, dolls of all shapes and sizes stared blankly back at us. Their glassy eyes seemed to follow our every move. My friend Mark nervously chuckled and picked up a doll, examining it before setting it back down with a shiver. That's when we heard it, a soft giggle, unmistakably that of a child. We froze, our eyes darting around the aisle. The giggle came again, closer this time. We exchanged wide-eyed glances, our unease deepening. It was then that I noticed a faint light emanating from the end of the aisle, casting a ghostly glow on the shelves. With hesitant steps, we approached the source of the light. What we saw there defied all explanation. A small child, no older than 6 or 7, sat cross-legged on the floor, surrounded by an array of dolls. Their eyes were wide and vacant, yet they seemed to be animated by an otherworldly force. The child's laughter echoed through the aisle, growing louder and more unsettling with each passing moment. "Hey, are you lost?" Mark's voice trembled as he called out to the child. The laughter abruptly stopped, and the child turned their head slowly towards us. Their eyes, hollow and devoid of emotion, locked onto ours. It was as if we were being scrutinized by something far older and more malevolent than a child. A sense of dread washed over us, and we turned to flee. But the store seemed to have other plans. The aisles shifted and rearranged themselves, distorting the familiar layout into an otherworldly labyrinth. Panic set in as we realized we were trapped, caught in a nightmare we couldn't wake from. The child began to stand, their movements jerky and unnatural. They held out their hands, and the dolls on the shelves began to move, their limbs contorting and twitching as if pulled by invisible strings. The dolls formed a circle around us, their unblinking eyes fixed on us as they swayed in a macabre dance. A piercing shriek tore through the air, a sound that seemed to come from every direction at once. The child's laughter had transformed into something twisted and nightmarish. We covered our ears in a futile attempt to block out the haunting sound, but it penetrated deep into our minds, filling us with a terror we could hardly comprehend. Time lost all meaning as we were subjected to the relentless assault on our senses. The lights flickered and dimmed, casting us into darkness, only to flare back to life in blinding intensity. The dolls' movements grew more frantic, their limbs contorting into grotesque shapes that defied the laws of nature. And then, as suddenly as it had begun, it stopped. The shrieking ceased, the light steadied, and the dolls froze in their unnatural poses. The child's hollow eyes met ours one final time before they faded into nothingness, leaving behind an eerie silence that was almost more unsettling than the chaos that had preceded it. The store returned to its normal state, the aisles no longer twisted and distorted. We stumbled out of the Walmart, our minds reeling from the terror we had witnessed. As we emerged into the cool night air, we couldn't help but glance back at the store, a place that had once seemed so ordinary and mundane. But now, it held a secret, a darkness that lurked just beyond the surface. Years have passed since that harrowing night, but the memory of the haunted Walmart still lingers. The story has become a local legend, whispered in hushed tones by those who dare to venture into the abandoned store. And as for me and my friends, we bear the scars of that night, not physical scars, but the kind that haunt your dreams and remind you that there are things in this world that defy explanation, things that should never be taken lightly. Night Shift at Walmart, a true tale of terror. I had always heard rumors about the strange occurrences that took place during the night shift at Walmart. Tales of eerie shadows, unexplained noises, and unsettling encounters seemed to be a part of the store's history. But like most people, I brushed off these stories as mere exaggerations or urban legends. That is, until I found myself working the night shift at Walmart myself. It was a chilly autumn evening when I walked into the store, my hoodie pulled tight against the cool breeze. I had taken up the night shift to make some extra cash while juggling my college studies during the day. The fluorescent lights inside were harsh, casting an otherworldly glow on the towering shelves of merchandise. As I made my way to the employee break room, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. The night started off quietly enough. I joined a small group of fellow night shift workers as we restocked shelves and organized the store. There was a sense of camaraderie among us, a shared understanding of the strange hours we were working. But as the night wore on, that camaraderie gave way to unease. Around midnight, as I was stacking boxes in the electronics aisle, I heard a soft whisper. It was a hushed voice, almost like a secret being shared among friends. I glanced around, but the aisle was empty. I chalked it up to my imagination, the result of tiredness and the stories I had heard before. As I continued my work, the whispers grew louder, more distinct. It was as if they were coming from the shelves themselves, the merchandise conspiring to share some hidden truth. I strained to make out the words, my heart pounding in my chest. The words were a jumble of fragmented sentences, impossible to fully understand. But one phrase stood out, they watch you. I shook my head, trying to clear the unsettling thoughts from my mind. It had to be a prank, a coworker messing with me. I checked around, but everyone was engrossed in their tasks, seemingly oblivious to the eerie whispers that had filled the air. As the hours passed, the store grew quieter. The usual bustling energy of the daytime was replaced by an eerie stillness. I found myself drawn to the security monitors, watching the empty aisles on the screen. That's when I saw it, a shadow moving across the screen, a shadow that didn't belong to any of us. My heart raced as I followed the shadow's path, my eyes widening in disbelief. The shadow seemed to move with purpose, darting in and out of the aisles. It was humanoid in shape, but its movements were disjointed, unnatural. My breath caught in my throat as the shadow stopped in front of one of the security cameras, its featureless face turned directly towards the lens. It felt like it was staring right at me, through the camera, through the screen, straight into my soul. I tore my gaze away from the monitor, my mind racing. I had to tell someone, share what I had seen, but would they believe me? Would they think I was just another employee caught up in the stories that surrounded the store? I decided to confide in my supervisor, hoping that he would offer some rational explanation. But when I mentioned the shadow and the whispers, his face grew pale. He sighed heavily and leaned in close, speaking in a hushed tone. "You're not the first to experience this," he said, his voice quivering. "There have been reports of strange occurrences during the night shift for years. Whispers, shadows, and even sightings of figures that can't be explained." My blood ran cold as his words sank in. This was more than just a prank, more than my imagination running wild. There was something truly unsettling happening within the walls of this Walmart. The remainder of my shift passed in a blur of anxiety and fear. Every creak of the floor, every flicker of the lights sent shivers down my spine. I couldn't escape the feeling that I was being watched, that unseen eyes were following my every move. As the sun began to rise and the night shift came to an end, I couldn't help but feel relief. I hurriedly clocked out and practically ran to my car, eager to leave the store behind. But as I drove away, I glanced back at the Walmart, a place that had once been just a place of shopping, but now held a sinister secret. To this day, I can't shake the memories of that night shift. The whispers, the shadow, the feeling of being watched, they haunt my thoughts, a constant reminder that there are things beyond our understanding lurking in the darkness. And every time I pass by a Walmart at night, I can't help but wonder what other secrets lie hidden within its walls, waiting to be discovered by those who dare to work the night shift. The Midnight Visitor, a Walmart horror tale. The pale glow of the moon cast eerie shadows through the mist that hung low over the town. I found myself standing in front of the abandoned Walmart, its vacant parking lot an expanse of darkness. The stories I had heard about this place were unsettling, tales of strange occurrences that defied explanation. Tonight, fueled by a mixture of curiosity and youthful recklessness, I was determined to uncover the truth. The rusty doors of the Walmart creaked open, the sound echoing in the silence of the night. With a deep breath, I stepped inside, my flashlight cutting through the darkness. The interior was a graveyard of forgotten merchandise, rows upon rows of shelves covered in dust and decay. The air was thick with an unsettling stillness, broken only by the occasional scuttling of rodents. I had barely begun to explore when a chill ran down my spine. It was as if a pair of unseen eyes were watching my every move. I shook off the feeling, attributing it to nerves, and continued to navigate through the dimly lit aisles. As I moved deeper into the store, the light from my flashlight seemed to flicker, casting unsettling shadows on the walls. The stories I had heard began to resurface in my mind, tales of strange figures that would appear in the dead of night, phantom employees who never left the store. I pushed these thoughts aside, telling myself that they were nothing more than old wives' tales meant to scare the curious away. I turned a corner, and my heart nearly leapt out of my chest. There, at the end of the aisle, stood a figure. It was a woman, dressed in tattered clothes, her long hair matted and unkempt. My breath caught in my throat as I stared at her, my flashlight trembling in my hand. "Hello?" I called out, my voice quivering. The woman didn't respond, her vacant eyes locked onto mine. I took a hesitant step forward, my curiosity outweighing my fear. As I drew closer, I noticed something odd. Her feet didn't seem to touch the ground. She appeared to be hovering a few inches above the floor. A shiver ran down my spine, and I stumbled backward, my heart racing. But my fear was quickly replaced by a surge of determination. I needed to know if what I was seeing was real. I approached the hovering woman once more, my flashlight beam illuminating her pale, expressionless face. "Who are you?" I asked, my voice barely more than a whisper. She continued to stare, her lips parting as if she was about to speak, but no sound emerged. I reached out a trembling hand, my fingers stopping just inches from her outstretched hand. The air around her was icy cold, sending a shiver down my spine. And then, as suddenly as she had appeared, she was gone. The aisle was empty once more, the only evidence of her presence the lingering feeling of unease that hung in the air. My heart pounded in my chest as I stumbled back, my mind racing to make sense of what I had just witnessed. I made my way to the store center, my footsteps echoing through the emptiness. It was there that I saw something that made my blood run cold, a circle of flickering candles, their flames casting an eerie glow. In the center of the circle lay a tattered journal, its pages filled with incomprehensible symbols and cryptic writings. Driven by a mixture of fear and fascination, I picked up the journal, my fingers tracing the strange markings. As I flipped through the pages, a sense of dread washed over me. The journal seemed to chronicle the experiences of someone who had encountered the same apparitions I had seen, the hovering woman and the otherworldly figures that inhabited the abandoned Walmart. The entries grew increasingly frantic, the author's handwriting devolving into chaotic scribbles. They spoke of a dark presence that had taken root within the store, of a realm that existed just beyond the veil of reality. I read on, my heart racing as I pieced together the horrifying truth. The abandoned Walmart was a gateway to another dimension, a realm where the laws of our world no longer held sway. A low whisper seemed to fill the air, barely audible but unmistakably present. The hair on the back of my neck stood on end as I realized that I was no longer alone. I spun around, my flashlight illuminating a gathering of shadowy figures. They were indistinct, their forms shifting and morphing, as if they were composed of darkness itself. My pulse quickened as I realized that I was trapped, surrounded by these otherworldly beings. The whispering grew louder, an unintelligible chorus that seemed to penetrate my very thoughts. I clutched the journal in my hand, my mind racing for a way out. It was then that I remembered the candles. With trembling hands, I ignited the candles, their flames casting a wavering light. The shadowy figures recoiled, hissing and writhing as if the light was searing their very essence. Their whispers grew frantic, their forms growing more insubstantial by the second. I watched in awe as they retreated, disappearing into the darkness from which they had emerged. The air seemed to grow warmer, the unnatural chill lifting as the last of the shadowy figures vanished. I stood there, breathing heavily, my heart still pounding. The abandoned Walmart was silent once more, its secrets hidden away. I fled the store, my mind reeling from the terror I had endured. As I stepped outside, the first rays of dawn illuminated the town, chasing away the darkness of the night. I glanced back at the abandoned Walmart, a place that held a truth more horrifying than I could have ever imagined. The journal in my hand held the key to the mysteries of that night, a testament to the dark forces that had once called the abandoned store home. It was a reminder that there are places in this world that defy explanation, places where the line between our reality and the unknown is thin. And as I walked away from that chilling encounter, I knew that the memory of the hovering woman and the whispering figures would forever haunt my dreams.